Hi, I'm Alex Crain with Crosswalk.com, and today we'll be talking with pastor and author Tullian Tchividjian. His most recent book, Glorious Ruin, How Suffering Sets You Free, is the topic of our conversation. What's the purpose of pain and suffering? And what's the unique message of your book that you're hoping to convey?
The ultimate goal of the book is to present the gospel to both Christian people and non-Christian people, because both Christian people and non-Christian people need the gospel. So my goal has always been to write books on the gospel, and I just discovered that the most direct route to the gospel is down the avenue of pain and suffering and brokenness. I mean, I have a friend named John Zoll who says that God's office is at the end of our rope, which is a great line. I mean, God is not the God on top of the ladder shouting down, climb, to broken people. He's the God at the bottom hanging on a cross and whispering, "It is finished." And that gets people ready to hear good news. That, as I said, God is a God who has suffered for us. God is a God who suffers with us. He understands our pain. He, in the person of Jesus, took on human flesh and frailties. As John 1 tells us, he came into this world as God to save us broken people. And that's very different than any other human philosophy. That's very, very different than any other world religion. And it becomes a super huge source of comfort for people.
Can you bring a little bit of that thread into why you see the need to make it accessible to people, and how to bridge that gap between being overly scholarly and kind of these in-house discussions that people seem obsessed with in Christianity and being out on the front lines?
God has given me a love for people. So I'm constantly reminding those that I teach, for instance, pastors and whatnot that I talk to, that theology is meant to serve people. People were not intended to serve theology. So if the theology that you produce or the theology that you express does not lift burdens off of people's broken shoulders, it needs to be adjusted, because it's not biblical theology. I mean, Jesus said there are basically two ways to preach. One way is, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, who lay burden after burden after burden on people's shoulders that they can't bear." That's one way. And there's a lot of preaching like that today. The other way to preach is, great example is Jesus saying, "Come to me, all ye who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. My burden is light, my yoke is easy." In other words, I've come to do for you what you could never do for yourself. I've done it. So rejoice and rest. It is finished. If you are a Christian, you live your life under a banner that reads, "It is finished." And that is care for souls. I mean, Paul says it as clear as day, that it's the kindness of the Lord that leads to repentance. It's what led me to repentance. It's what led you to repentance. It's what led every sinner to repentance. So that's really been my goal. And, we take our mission statement at the church very seriously. We take it from Luke chapter 4, which is, Jesus said, he gives his own mission statement in Luke chapter 4, where he says, "I've come to set the captives free. I've come to liberate the oppressed. I've come to free sinful people from their enslaving self-salvation projects, from thinking they have to make it on their own and dot all of their I's and cross all of their T's if they're going to get God's attention enough to save them," and that sort of thing. So I wrote this book ultimately to set people free.